Alrighty, we're recording. It's just me, no Jay to overtake my channel. I get to do all the talking, just as I prefer. Uh, Going back to the deck that I played half a game against Jay with. We were testing out the one territory class enhancement. I finally got around to downloading OBS so I can actually have people on and play games if I want, or just have people on and talk like as we're going through a deck. So I think that'd be pretty cool. So if you would like to be on, DM me. Let's see. Going to one territory class enhancement, just testing that as a potential solution. Because I will say I am completely guilty of trying to do as much as I can on my turn and not letting you do anything. So it's not really fun or fair to the opponent. And I do agree that you have to build to a state of oppression. Like you should have what your deck is trying to do and maintain. So I'm gonna take a sip of water. Uh, so I built this. I do think one territory class brings back nativity a bit. I still think it's a top notch, but I also think it opens up other decks because some decks just can't they can't hang speed wise. And I will say for one territory class enhancement, you still get to interact outside of battle. You are pushing battle phase. That's where most of your abilities are going to be happening. I do think you're going to be seeing more and more banding, more of an emphasis on banding because you want to get in heroes and evil characters that do multiple abilities, whether it's a banding chain that can draw a lot, or a big hero chain that can draw a lot, and you still want to be able to win the battle. So this is a very we were playtesting GOC. This is cookie cutter offense. Your disciples, you can be more advanced with them. Sorry, Rob. You can be more advanced with them and do more tricks and really get there. But it's up front. You can kind of take purple and clay and use your disciples, and you just kind of mix in. I'm huge on the Bethany trio. I'm going to build another deck that's just white that focuses more on getting out the Bethany trio and having white and clay enhancements to back them up. I still think they're the strongest attack in the game. If you can get them going, you get your draw, your negate, everything's CBN, and you hit the opponent's hand pretty good. And if you want to keep Mary in there, you restrict evil dominance. Now that you're doing one territory class enhancements per turn, it's also gonna, I think there's gonna be a big shift up front of how much territory class characters you use. I still like Judas and Thomas. I especially like draw punishment because I think the meta drastically shifts to drawing in battle. So I really like Judas for that aspect. If I can't do a lot of the searching outside of battle, then I need to draw. And when can I draw? Through dominance, through artifacts, and through battle, but it's easiest to do during battle. And I think there's a larger emphasis on drawing. I said this at the beginning, and then I just keep rambling on about one territory class enhancement. And this is all hypothetical thinking. Now, I've played for a very long time before there were a lot of territory class enhancements. So I have seen territory class enhancements over the years, and I've seen the golden era of redemption, as some people say, where people complained about other things. So and that's not a slight to the community. Sorry. Well, I guess it was. I didn't mean it in a mean way. So what I'm getting at is I've seen the slower, where there wasn't just all these territory class enhancements that went to everything and all these characters. This is really revved up over the last years. I do want to also bring up from a just design standpoint, when POC dropped, when Prophecies of Christ came out, the next set was LOC, and it was two very small nationals, COVID. Um, it was much more difficult to get a full-on grasp of the meta, and we as a community were very behind on the meta. We weren't putting together everything. So when LOC, and this is just my theory, so then when GOC came out, and GOC is amazing, people didn't fully understand how good Meek was and certain cards in LOC. And then we go into GOC, and I think the only person using Golden Calf at Nationals was Jaden at the second Nationals. So this was before GOC. So like I said, we are very behind as a community in what could have been made out of the meta. Then GOC comes out phase 1 and we're testing. From GOC phase 1 to phase 2 was a rapid change, community deck building and speed, where COVID's done, people are hanging out, people are playing, Redemption's picking up, and there's just Jaden continuing with his channel, me bringing in mine. We got podcasts, we got people talking, Discord's going crazy. There's just constant sharing, and people's decks were very good and very fast. And then all of a sudden, it's like, hey, all these cards are good. So if you look at 2 years ago and what decks were in their win cons and what they were doing, you'll see drastically different decks from just 2 years ago. You don't even see like awesome ride impartial judgment. Like that was everything. We're not even seeing that anymore because you can do it all with characters. So you're not seeing a lot of cards played that were played all over the place. And that's because everything got crazy fast and consistent. So trying to bring that back to scale a little bit to where more decks can be played, more strategies can be played, and I'm not playing some hyper aggressive deck and I sit down against someone, and if they're not playing the same or they're not an elite top player, then they don't really get to do anything. And that's not fun. Now you're going to see that in all top players should beat their opponent when they're not playing other top players. But it also shouldn't come down to I got to go first as a top player and I set up my board. I still think you can play salty decks. I still think that works. I know the rebuttal is blind lost soul, but I'm not seeing blind lost soul. So I definitely think there's still a shift in the meta that can happen, but ultimately there's just a lot you can play outside of battle. So going back to the point of the video, this is the deck I used against Jay, and threw this together. And I even said with theorizing about the one territory class that people go to Herdsman of Grar, Outsiders, Highwayman, the Lying Prophet, cards like that. And Matthew, I also think you can play, I think White Gray is very good. I'll do more of that. I'll work on that today, where you have a lot of just solid cards in white that get out what you need. And interaction between, whether you want Empty Tomb or Nativity with Bethany Trio, Hannah, you do want your drawing character and you want ways to your drawing character. And then a couple of that with strong rescues, and you want enhancements that work for you in the battle. Jay and I went right into that. If you haven't seen that video, we talk about that throughout the entire video, but having white and gray, you have access to Lying Prophet and the new Saul of Tarsus that's out. Thank you, Jaden. I updated my plugin prior to this. So there's a lot of ways you can go with deck building. I personally think New Testament Gold with Crimson is really good. Herod's are always great, so you could play gold. Like New Testament Gold has not been touched competitively, because it can't keep up. So one territory class enhancement, yes, speed will still be involved, but a lot of that speed comes from this guy and this guy. If you don't have and outsiders, if you don't have all that drawing and brigades, you as a player inherently just cut down the speed of the opponent that they're relying on, while you're still playing a very competitive deck because New Testament Gold has Jairus' daughter, constant reserve, that band in general of going to Jairus with enhancements to back it up, reserving cards off the top of their deck. Bartimaeus teaching in parables is always fun. They have very strong Talitha Cum and Resurrection bands. And then you have your dual alignment characters. That deck just wasn't played because it couldn't keep up. And all that changes now. So you make the opponent slower, and it's much more of a controlling offense. So what we're doing here, it is pretty cookie cutter. We have 3 angels that get to Matthew first turn, ideally, plus Patmos, plus Life Through Christ, plus Spirit as a Dove, plus New Covenant to get Spirit as a Dove. Yeah, Peter was added. I'm gonna say I messed that up during the video. I think Good Seed's very, very good now. I think Ends of the Earth is a near staple again. I think you see a lot of 4 drachma and denarius. I meant to bring that up as a point that you could easily use Simon Peter in any sort of white, clay, anything really. And it gets you 4 drachma and denarius in the white, gray. So I think Paul comes into play a lot. Cards like the Ascension, where you're pulling from reserve and pulling a hero that draws or does something from reserve, is really good. Same with, you'll see I added both. Take a card from reserve, band them in. You want to get value off of as much as you can and where you can get it, because this is a resource game. You'll hear John Early say that a lot. Resource-driven game. You want more resources than the opponent, and then it comes down to how do you use those resources, and that's a Redemption 101. Baptism of Jesus is really good. Jay was playing Walking on Water, very good. Reach of Desperation, which is funny because I was going to talk about Reach of Desperation in general being a good card again. See what I did there? So 4 drachma is good. Denarius is good. Not in here, but it was at first. I took it out. Just the fact that there's no numerous and no Emmaus Road and no Delivered is a breath of fresh air. I have always said if a card feels like it has to be in your deck and I want to put it in all my builds, and in my opinion, there's 3 cards that I want to have in my deck because of how much they can do, being Emmaus Road, Delivered, and Numerous, then that's probably not good. So a lot of ways to go to Matthew. We get Matthew, get our initial draw. We don't have too much. We could play Lord's Prayer in battle, which is always weird, right? To play territory class enhancements in battle now. We're really just trying to get your draw factor going. And honestly, you just hope that you draw into something. And that's where it comes down to ratios are really big in this format. And you'll see a lot of older players, if they're still competitive to this day, it will be a quick shift. And newer players are going to be like, well, I'm just going to keep playing what I had. So it's going to be interesting to see how quickly people adapt and what becomes, I'm talking for the Lackey Grand Prix testing the solution. Who's going to adapt and what are they going to play? And are they going to adapt just philosophy, or is it deck building? Because Matthew, without much support isn't a strong attack first turn. So you got to get your ratios down packed. The rest of this defense or the rest of this offense, you really just want to play Ascension and DePaul from reserve with Andrew. So you're negating their stuff. You're getting Paul for a draw. You're getting John for a draw and a toss. So that's pretty much it here. These three aren't needed in this build. This is just because I'm stuck on how strong they are, and because I'm playing Clay, that I can bring one in and have an untouchable or Baptism of Jesus on top of this band. Same with Great Commission. So these three characters can be other disciples, and it's fine. Thomas kind of stays out because as decks are slower, if you use a search ability, which is still all the time, then I still get my dominance. So it just helps me out a little bit. Judas, for obviously being Judas, I could always ban him in. And right there is a D6. So I like to attack with Matthew, have the Ascension, get a draw, and then get another D6, max out my hand. I'm going to be honest, that's all you need. You go to Matthew, you get a draw 3, draw 4. You got your searches here and there. You can add to battle with ends. You go into the Ascension. And then you're getting your 2, 4, 6 cards. So you're good there. And then you negate. And Andrew negates except disciples. So you get all your draw, and then Paul is CBN, so it doesn't matter. And when you get all this drawing going, and then you have Judas and Thomas, you're getting value. I could always put down Mary for negating. And I'll be honest, if these three come out, I'm probably going to play negate neutrals disciple. I could always manipulate that as I want. And then pretty much it. I would probably go more into, I think Mary comes into play, and you're bringing in big bands that are doing a lot, and they're protected and they're tossing. Like, I think you're going to see a lot of, if I can band this band in with white, then I'm going to want to continuously do this. Like, I still think banding is key. So, and I was saying with Matthew and the Ascension, I'm getting a huge draw right there. You're going to see banding with huge draws come into play. And then I can play Ambushing Bandits and Zacchaeus. So, and Zacchaeus, he's in there because, once again, nice to have a draw character. Negate enhancements in opponent's territories. If I can control that I get to play enhancements 1 per turn, and none of yours work, I'm getting an advantage. So I still think you can play territory class, control. It'll be interesting to see how much, because people are going to quickly realize they need to generate resources in the battle phase. Other than that, pretty standard. I've been playing a defense like this on and off for the year. I really like Thieves in general. If you don't have hand protection, and I do my band, which is mostly just I get the draw and band plunders. Not only does your next enhancement not work, but I get to take it. Plunders works really well if I block, because if I go first and I attack with Matthew, then I can go Highwayman to Plunders, and then I can bounce my Matthew. So preventing the next early on is really good, and then getting to take it is also really good. Get the draw. Tendency is all right, pretty good card. I really like the band to band to band. That is very strong band. I get the draw, or if I'm like, you know what, I have enough. I want to slap down Den of Thieves, and then I get to prevent the next and take it, and then I get to take an enhancement from opponent's hand, CBP. Just Plunderers to Condemned Thief is extremely strong because the first enhancement you play is prevented, and then I'm taking something from your hand before you can play anything. So I look at your hand, I take either a cannot be prevented enhancement or CBN, and then I'm forcing, like, I'm just limiting your resources. So I get to take two of your enhancements from your hand. In a meta, let's say one territory class enhancement, if you're not getting to draw a lot, because I have Judas out and I'm also taking stuff, if you draw with Judas out, I'm taking your good enhancement, and then I'm blocking with Plunderers to Condemned, chances are you don't have many more enhancements left. Most people play around 5 to 8 good enhancements. Jaden's build, he posted the Postivity. It was all territory class enhancements. And then you have a couple in your reserve. This deck right here. Two battle winners in the deck. 2 in reserve, 3 in reserve. If I Judas you for 1, prevent the next, and then take 1 from your hand, you're quickly out. That's why I went to negate and interrupt and take. And then I hit you with the Betrayal too, because you're just not left with many cards. So I do think Thieves are very good. Nebby absolutely plays perfectly into this defense, minus the whole Unity ambushing. So Zacchaeus is in here because I can have another Thief down. He still works. Ambushing, I can bounce with Book of the Law or Plunderers, so I can always bounce. Not that I need to bounce Ambushing. I can bounce Nebby to make ambushing work, or I don't really care. And I just go crazy with Nebby. You can band Highwayman to Shamed Woman to Nebby. Nice little band. I believe I want to do more with like lurking in here and have a way to get to lurking and be able to take things from you and toss the next, or have Nebby toss the next, lurking into taking stuff as well. I don't know. I think it's good. But either way, I really like this defense. I do think you need, Jay had a good block at the end of the game, right when it crashed, with choosing the hero. Once again, that's why I go back to Gray. You have Pontius Pilate and Denarius and Saul of Tarsus, with Pharisees, Romans, whatever you want. A lot of good synergy there. And having that choose the hero attack is extremely strong because, and I say that because in this type of one territory class where I don't get to just explode all my heroes and have all these enhancements and everything, if I swap out your number 1 attack to a separate attack, that changes a lot of things. Once again, that comes down to deck building, and I'll reference New Testament gold. If I swap out your hero to another New Testament gold, it doesn't really matter. So I think other decks are going to be much stronger, not just GOC. You're going to see, I think, green with Prophets in general, just green. Seth talked about this being a link, saying that just not necessarily minor major, but Prophets in general. Completely agree. Daniel Rex defenses right now, so cannot be prevented, and cannot be negated if Daniel's banding. So I did keep Daniel in mind, just preventing in general, because if you look at the strong attacks right now, 24 Elders, the Bethany trio, just negating in general, banding in Noah, and Daniel and Andrew, like negating's always strong. Negating evil cards, always wrong. Negating good cards, always wrong. So make sure when you're building that you have numerous, not just no numerous. Make sure that you have multiple ways to block, and not just block. If you block, that's one. I got a block in. Great, that's awesome. If you don't get rid of those characters, you're gonna lose. You're in a foot race. So you need to have multiple ways to get rid of key heroes. I don't really want to attack much with Judas. I don't want to attack much with Thomas. If you catch me on, like, after I meet some people, if I meek some people or do like a big attack, I meek them and you push them out, like I resurrection all three of them in, you push them out. Or I meeked Mary and now I have to meek someone else with lats. Like you're making me do certain things on my offense that I don't want to do. I want to constantly control. If I have John as meek and I attacked with this trio and you choose the hero, pushed all them out and made me come in with a 11-9 that I can't really do anything with. That's ways of controlling my heroes and getting blocks. You also want to make sure a couple of these heroes are just dead. Like, yeah, Paul, I'm not really afraid of Paul in battle. Same with Matthew. I'm not afraid of Matthew in battle. But same with Peter, but someone that tosses the next, negates, and does everything in the world. These heroes, like this, all this. If you don't have anyone left, I'm throwing in angels, you know? Yeah, these are heroes that I want to attack with. These are heroes that I want to lead into battle first, 1, 2, 3. And these are people that I want to band with, or not really do anything with. So I think choose a hero is very strong, and I think getting rid of 3 heroes. That's why I immediately went back to Christian Martyr in this type of 1 territory class. I went right back to Christian Martyr. I think it goes up to a near staple, which is where it was. But I do think you have to be able to kill you gotta discard heroes, or else they're just gonna keep attacking and you're gonna have to keep blocking this, and you don't want to. You're going to lose to this over and over again. So that's all I got. Look at ways to reserve access. If you're in the Lackey Grand Prix, reserve access is huge because 1 territory class per turn greatly reduces how many resources you can grab from your reserve. So, or you got to be specific. Am I taking from reserve or deck? So many times I rip everything out of my deck and I go to my reserve as needed. Or I get the couple key cards from my reserve and then I grab something from deck. Or I'm sorry, vice versa. I go through whatever I need from my deck and then it's like, okay, I need that 1 card from my reserve. I already got everything else from my deck. I need my Jehu sword or my first sacrifice from reserve, whatever it is, Coming Prince. You can't do that. So you got to pick what you want. Cards that generate resources, Ends of the Earth, Patmos, wherever it is, Patmos, Golgotha, the when put in play, grab what, Denarius. Denarius is extremely good. Delivered's still good. So we'll see. I think the Cross is better than Golden Calf now. I think you're going to see a lot less territory class characters and a huge reliance on dominance. If you keep that in mind, then I think having ways to the Cross is extremely strong. I think 3 nails is not a staple, but it's very, very good to have. Not because Jay used it against me in a great fashion, but he showcased why. I can still get out to a good start you flip the script. It's a way to control the game. So, oh, what else? I think I've rambled on enough, but I'll be very interested to see. I do challenge people to think on their deck. Do my cards generate resources? Do I have multiple ways to attack? Can I get rid of characters, both evil and good? What are my win cons? Do I have battle winners that are able to get through different layers of defense? I think one territory class enhancement per turn makes balanced decks pretty much top tier. And this greatly enhances defenses, because defenses were having a very tough time blocking first turn, because player A could go, if I get to go first, player A can do so much. Player B was having a very tough time blocking because the other person has 30 cards out of their deck and everything down. All your stuff's negated and I get all my heroes. I have my entire deck at my disposal turn one, or majority of it, and you have 8 cards. Maybe 9 or 10 at best, like depending on what souls you pulled. On some star abilities, I don't like, more than likely you have 8 cards in your hand and you're blocking someone who has 20 cards at their disposal. Their hands at 14 to 16, they have cards down in territory, they have numerous options and you don't. So this greatly helps defenses. It's also not surprising, Jaden, and myself, I know Jaden's using his deck for the Lackey Grand Prix. Jaden's deck has 10 evil characters in the main build. 9. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 9 in main build and 10 overall. Sorry. That's a lot of defense. And he has 6 evil enhancements. I think Jay had 10 evil characters in his main build with 4 enhancements. And I have 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 evil characters with 5 enhancements. Those 3 decks I just spoke about, but I also got doubt, you know what I'm saying? Those 3 whatever examples I just used, top players, top deck builders, and we all went immediately. We're playing a balanced. Now maybe that's Jaden saying he's playing a different. This is Lackey Grand Prix Day 2. I'm pretty sure this one territory class enhancement rule, although his build doesn't necessarily look like it because it's all territory class, but maybe he gets options of what he wants. So, I'm referring to Jaden's Postivity. Nice name, by the way. So yeah, you'll see that the 3 of us all went to a balanced deck. You have to block, you have to get rid of evil characters on offense, and you have to get rid of heroes on your defense. You've got to be able to discard the opponent's heroes and expect the battle phase to be resource generated. That's usually who wins the game. If I can generate resources in the battle, both offense and defense, and I can manipulate the battle how I want, and I can limit your resources, then it's in my favor. So I think that's everything. I went more into theory than what the deck is doing. And Reth, I know I told you 100 times that I would do a what goes into my head when I'm building. So I just have to, that can be my next video, because I'll be building a probably white gray after this. So that's something I can keep in mind. So yeah, that's everything. Look into souls. Your souls need to be generating right from the get-go. You can play Darkness and Revealer in the same deck. I know Revealer is Unity, but you want to have multiple ways. You can play the Thief, the Deceiver, and a Malachite Slave. in like a kind of splashy Highwayman, Nebby, Outsiders. Like you make that work. I really liked how Jay played. Um, like bet the best players build the best decks with the best cards. That's really it. Jay went to Harrods and Highwayman and Ambushing Bandits, I think is what he had. So he had a band and a draw, a band and a draw, and he had Egyptian Rebel, um, and the Outsiders. So he had ways to just draw immediately. So you always need ways to replenish, because the toughest part, blocking, it's not the first block anymore, not with one territory class. It's not the first block, it's after that. If I can't replenish and you get to keep attacking me with a bunch of disciples that ban and turn off my abilities or Bethany Trio, you're going to win. I'm going to lose. It's just a matter of time. I can't say enough about this band. This, in my opinion, if you get it out early, it only gets better because white has so much it can ban too, and you can do a massive ban with white silver and have all sorts of good stuff. But the fact that this band reserves an evil card from their hand, can restrict evil dominance, and can draw, and it's all CBN. When it's tough to replenish and you're negating evil cards, it's very difficult to stop. If I have to draw just to combat, or I have to kill these heroes. Scattered becomes key again, stuff like that. So, all right, I'm rambling on. I hope you all enjoyed some just kind of going over kind of why I built this deck, where I think one territory class goes, challenge y'all on trying to generate resources in battle. I definitely think 50 cards, 50 or 57, like 57 is really good right now because you're going to win the resource battle. If you have 57 and you have just white clay, you have heroes that draw in general, and you have evil characters that draw, I really think one brigade on evil is the way to go too. If you can generate resources and have 57 cards, you get the extra dominant. You win the resource game just by having more cards, and you get the draw. Is really, really good. But 50 card decks are also really, really good because everything is good in your deck. So I'm not sure. Usually 50 is the way to go, but one territory class opens up a lot of stuff. So think on everything when you're deck building. Why is this card in here? What am I having trouble against defensively, offensively? And I think Mayhem takes a spot up big time. So generate resources, get rid of the opponent's resources, and do what you can. And then post. If you're in the Lackey Grand Prix or you're just testing this, like, hey, I'm hearing a lot of traction on this. Here's my theory, or here's what I think a good offense would be for one territory class enhancement. Post it. So before I ramble on anymore, I'm gonna start building white gray, and I will talk to you all soon. Goodbye.